they lost again.
Rebound himself, open net, 3-1 Brighton.
4 defeats in his last 5 Old Trafford games for Ruben Amorim. Those faces on the bench said everything. As for the table, 13th for Manchester United after Brighton take a 3rd straight Old Trafford win. Let's get word from Ruben Amorim speaking.
Another defeat, 3 points dropped at home. The defeat to Crystal Palace at home means Manchester United sit in 13th place on the standings, 12 points off Leicester City in 18th. They are closer to getting relegated than they are to qualifying for the top 4.
About big clubs like Manchester United used to be and like Liverpool. But, you know, the bottom line is, for me, the Manchester United just have to stop embarrassing themselves, because that's what it is.
Facts. It's beyond sad now. The current state of Manchester United has to be embarrassing, and it's for reasons both obvious to the crowd and some that cut way deeper than the club. But before we get into any of that, a quick heads up. If you haven't subscribed to Kicksuseb yet, hit that button below. It's that easy. Manchester United, new manager, different tactics, same old story.
You have to acknowledge the moment and not going around the problem. Everybody here is underperforming. No matter what the circumstances, we are underperforming, and we have to accept that it's unacceptable to lose so many games.
Even though he says he knows what the situation is, I don't think Ruben Amorim fully understands it. I could drop fact after fact, like the one that states this is United's worst league ranking in the season since the 19s under Ferguson, or how they kept getting beat at home. But you get the idea by now. Manchester United is in a full-blown crisis. Getting straight into the issue then, what exactly is the problem with United? We've got to start with the change that rocked the club early on, and that's replacing the manager.
The buff's still with us, Craig. It sounds as
like
his
this
way or the highway.
I like this guy. He's very personable, has a personality, talks well, he's confident in what he's saying, he's common sense, he's got a track record. I think there's a lot of hope here for United fans about what might be coming their way. It's not going to be startling straight away, and this group of players will have to be.
Initially, when Manchester United announced the appointment of Ruben Amorim, it came with slightly positive reactions. The tenor under Erik ten Hag was disappointing. Yes, they did win the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup, but the performances, the way they played, and some of the heavy defeats taken in the process all made for very bad reading. After a brief stint with Ruud van Nistelrooy as caretaker coach, Ruben Amorim was appointed as the new manager, and the mood around the club was optimistic.
Tell us about Ruben Amorim then, Mark. Big favourite now, obviously, to be the new coach.
Yeah, well, I went over to Portugal to do a piece on Amorim last season when it looked like he was going to go to Liverpool, and that didn't happen. But he is an up-and-coming.
He worked wonders with Sporting Lisbon, guided the team to winning the league last season, and in the Champions League had produced some incredible results, including, most recently, beating United's rivals. Trashing Manchester City 4-1 in his sign-off game before joining United only increased the optimism. But what if I told you guys that all of this was where the problem started? Away from all of this, the optimism, we have to take a look at Ruben Amorim's track record so far as United's manager. In the Premier League, 11 games, 4-1, 1 drawn, and 6 lost. If we go even deeper, Amorim's tenure started on the wrong note. After the 2-0 loss to Newcastle, he became the first United manager to lose 5 of his first 8 league games as head coach. There's no hiding behind these sorts of numbers. It's terrible stuff.
We are being the worst team, maybe, in history of Manchester United. I know that you want headlines, but I'm saying that because we...
Might seem like a harsh one now, but at this point, we've got to ask the question, is Ruben Amorim any better than Erik ten Hag?
I think he's got the same credentials that Erik ten Hag had, so I'm slightly sort of dubious about it, but I quite liked Erik ten Hag. I wanted him to do.
If we're being honest, she's not wrong. United fans might not want to hear this, but there's a lot of similarities with ten Hag and Ruben Amorim that slowly paints the same picture. Both came to the club off the back of building excellent teams outside the top 5 European leagues. We've already touched on what Ruben Amorim was doing at Sporting Lisbon before he left. Champions of the league and doing well in European football. But if you look at it, Erik ten Hag was doing the same thing.
Then you have one of the best that there will ever be in the outside the 5 strongest leagues was ten Hag. So
Even Ruben Amorim admits it. Ten Hag at Ajax built possibly the best team outside the top 5 leagues we've seen in a long while. Both came to the club trying to implement their style of play on the team, and both came to the club and had issues with players. Ten Hag most notably with Ronaldo. We will get to the aspect of this on Amorim, but the idea here is, seems like United have only gone on and spent a lot on acquiring the Portuguese version of what they previously had. They made the decision regardless, and in trying to understand just how bad this United team is, we've got to go to the personnel on the pitch.
I believe in them because when I start this week, you can say that is 1 week, 3 trains.
Seems like this belief is going to cost him his job very soon. Ruben Amorim arrives at the club and makes it clear that he believes in the players there, even though it's been pointed out that these same players cost the former manager his job. Now, let's look into the players a bit. I could name a few.
When I see a striker that big and he's not an out-and-out 9, I wonder why. Can I just label him Black Weghorst? He's going to take people's space. Can you play him and Højlund? Because you have to play him and Højlund together, right?
I'll be honest with you, go on. I haven't watched him play 90 minutes. I've seen bare clips, but I've done extensive research, history.
For a club that used to boast of strikers like Ruud van Nistelrooy, Andy Cole, Dwight York, out-and-out number 9s who could bag goals all those years back, the current pairing of Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee in that department is a huge fall-off. It gets even worse. Both cost the club a combined fee of over £100 million. Rasmus Højlund has 7 goals in all competitions this season. Zirkzee has 4. If I put this into context, this means that each goal either has scored for the club this season cost the club just over £9 million.
Yeah, Højlund, I agree with Jody. I've watched him the last 2 games closely, and I'm like, it just doesn't add up.
Are you surprised, man? You ain't looking for a striker?
I'd be going to get Osimhen now. If we can do it from a financial standpoint, get him on loan. Guarantees you someone who can get on the end of things, scores goals, experienced. Done it at the top level. Because he's 70-odd million pounds, Højlund, we're expecting the finished article a lot of the time, unfortunately. These strikers come in and they learn off someone. He's got no one to learn off. He's looking at Zirkzee, who's like him. They need someone. Both need someone to learn. What does it take to be a Man United number 9? What are they doing every day? What type of drills are they doing?
Like a Man United player, he's not quick enough, he doesn't move well enough, he doesn't show any goal threat, but it's not his fault he's a Man United player. He's not going to turn down the chances.
When you consider the fact that the primary duty they were brought into the team for, to score goals, is missing, then all the stats and numbers above make for poor reading. It could be an easy solution, because as one of the problems was pointed out, there's a general lack of space in that United attack, and the solution would be to put in players who are better suited to fix the issue. Say like Marcus Rashford, for example, right? Well, that isn't happening anytime soon. Before we get into the why though, just in case you missed it earlier, that subscribe button to Kicks with Steb is still down below if you haven't clicked it yet.
I will put Vital before I put a player that don't give the maximum every day. So,
in the context of this, saying he'd rather start his 60-year-old goalkeeping coach than Marcus Rashford, even though he knows the team needs a player of his qualities, well, that's saying something. Ruben Amorim has repeated time and again that the issue with Marcus Rashford is his training levels and not showing the right intensity. If you're a United fan watching this, apologies, but it gets worse.
Manchester United's midfield has been an issue for a long time. It's been an issue ever since Erik ten Hag arrived and wanted to sign Frankie de Jong. Didn't get Frankie de Jong, right? They've tried again with their midfield this summer. Do the hierarchy need to take some...
That Manchester United midfield is nothing to write home about. Why? Except for Kobbie Mainoo, who has been the team's brightest spark in that area, the rest of Manchester United's options in the middle of the park don't quite stack up. Out of sorts.
Casemiro.
Yes.
I've never seen a player of that quality so technically inefficient with the ball at his feet, bro. Because you talk about these Hollywood passes, he actually has those on lock. His focus and his concentration makes him one of the most careless, lazy passers of the ball that you'll see in that position. The problem with him too is physically, guys are running off him. He's not tracking runners. You can get past him with one quick shimmy. He looks...
Casemiro. When you add players like Christian Eriksen to the mix, good. Yes, but he looks miles off the pace at United. Doesn't strike you as the sort of player who'd be able to cover miles in the middle of the park. Then there's this guy.
Manuel Ugarte is very good, but is he really the midfielder that Man United needs? Because what he's excellent at is winning the ball back and breaking up play. But the problem is that although he's great as a destroyer, he's not the sort of player who can then also create or progress the ball from deep. In fact, fact, he fell way below the average for League One midfielders last season in progressive passes and key passes.
With Manuel Ugarte, it's easy to see the idea, a holding midfielder at the base to help break opposition attacks. But going the other way, he cannot progress with the ball and pick a pass. If you then think about a player like Mason Mount, who has more injuries than games played for the club, and once again, the middle of the pitch for Manchester United is an area there still hasn't been any real fix to. Defensively, it's the same thing. Using the game against Brighton as an example, in that 2-0 defeat, Manchester United conceded the opening goal in the first half. It stretched more than that. It was the 5th home game in a row that this was happening. When didn't it happen? They lost 2-0 to Crystal Palace a couple of days back, with 2 goals in the second half from Jean-Philippe Matete to win it. What we've done with this breakdown is paint a picture of what Manchester United is currently. They can't score goals, don't have a midfield balance, can't defend, fail to win games. I mean, it's going all wrong for the team. The assessment is clear now. With what we've seen, there's no real difference between Erik ten Hag and Ruben Amorim. If anything, all of that was just a like-for-like change. Which brings us to the big point of this discussion, the issue with Manchester United. Is it the players, the coach, or something else? On the aspect of players, for example, you could make the argument for there being a possible fix.
Ruben Amorim, what's your thoughts? Are you positive about the future under him?
I'm positive about Amorim. It's got to get some top players in the club for me. When you're talking about Man United, you need top players.
Yeah.
Over the last 2 years, Harry Kane and Declan Rice both became.
Say Manchester United changed the approach and got in quality and tested players, for example. They deliver a measure of success that could push the club long term. On the aspect of the coach, Ruben Amorim has his tactics and wants his team to play that way. This one goes hand in hand with the players. You'd assume that if he had the right players in the right positions for the team, then they could make something out of it. But the real highlight here is the other issue, Manchester United off the pitch, the board. Since post Alex Ferguson, they've been through 9 different managers to date. For context, Liverpool and Manchester City have been through 3 different managers in that spell. The point? Manchester United lacks sustainability long term. With this club, there's no development plan. Hiring and firing managers is their response to the teams performing badly. But in some cases, the solution should have been elsewhere.
In medicine, you would see this is an operation at the open heart.
When Rolf Rangnick made this statement in 2022, few people would have paid attention to this and probably dismissed the statement. But looking at it now, he had a proper point. The issue with Manchester United goes beyond signing young talents and experienced pros. It goes beyond getting the best coaches in the world or the most successful ones. They need a proper structure at the club, an identity. Pursue players that fall in line with this identity and get a coach that believes in this idea too. Look at the teams like Liverpool and Manchester City. That's one thing that has separated them from the rest. Liverpool, for so many years under Jurgen Klopp and now Arne Slot, have a style they play, how they want to play, pressing from the front, players that understand this. Same with Manchester City. You cannot say the same for Manchester United, because even with the new man in charge, it's impossible to exactly point out what the style of play at the club is. Manchester United has been in a decline for years, and unfortunately, despite the change in manager and even the new shift in ownership with Ineos in the picture, it doesn't seem like this would be different anytime soon. There's a lot more that needs to be done from the board down to the players, and until that happens, it'll only get worse. Do you guys think Ruben Amorim might be the solution to the crisis at the club? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video too.